The mighty Himalayan mountains separate Tibet from Dharamsala, India, and 100,000 exiles from their homeland. Among them, a young activist named Tenzin Sundu.
I was actually born on a roadside in a tent. Yeah.
So you were lucky to survive?
Yes, but this is how we actually picked up the struggle in exile, and then His Holiness actually taking the leadership in starting Tibetan schools, recreating the monasteries.
For nearly 50 years, they've been trying to recreate their homeland. There are prayer flags forever fluttering in the wind. And there is this path, like the sacred one that winds around the Dalai Lama's Potala Palace back in Lhasa. Sundu, what does this path symbolize?
These actually represent the symbol of the struggle that we are fighting for, something that is Tibet, the core Buddhist idea. Let the world heal out of violence and the hatred and the anger. Although we cannot go to Tibet, we belong to the idea of Tibet.
Sundu belongs to a new generation of Tibetans struggling to reconcile their devotion to the Dalai Lama with their deep desire to win Tibet's freedom. There is difference between you and the Dalai Lama because he's talked about autonomy and you're talking about independence.
There is this difference that I see, and especially among the younger generation Tibetans who are saying no compromise on independence.
That could take another 50 years.
No, it's not going to take 50 years. It's going to take, I tell you, 15, 20 years, Tibet will be free.
Isn't that wishful thinking?
If this disease of non-violence can spread, it can spread in China.
Sundu began his one-man campaign of non-violence long before this Olympic protest season, seizing the spotlight whenever a Chinese leader would visit India.
This was their dramatic moment under the sun, Tenzin Sundu on top of the Indian Institute of Science building, hoisting the Free Tibet banner.
But there must have been security around there. It must have been difficult to get up to...
It's basically Tom and Jerry game.
Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry game. And the mouse is always clever.
And these are the mice, monks preparing to march 800 miles from Dharamsala to Tibet in time for the Beijing Olympics.
They are going to show that there's one China, civilized, beautiful country, developed country. The other half is the deprivation of freedom to all these people.
Honor Buddhist soldier.
And once you get to the border, are they going to invite you in?
Right at the border, we are going to be like the situation that I'm in front of a tiger. So what will the tiger do?
Sundu is preparing to meet the tiger by teaching a small army of marchers the art of non-violent protest, along with New York-based activist Ladong Tethong.
First scenario is you are at a protest, a Tibetan protest, and some Chinese government leaders, they walk by. Some people begin to yell and hurl abuse and say China out of Tibet and Chinese, running dogs. Do you join them? Is it a violent or a non-violent act?
And that's the critical question these monks are about to debate.
Saying these things at a protest is not violence. Sometimes we even insult our own friends, not from hatred, but from love.
But saying derogatory things can also cause harm. From a Buddhist point of view, violence can be verbal.
They're so open and they engage in debate so easily. I mean, it's like this in Tibet too. The monasteries are our universities.
Monk Gendum Gyatso spent 3 years in a Chinese prison after he and other monks had refused to denounce the Dalai Lama. He said his sentence was extended when they found a picture of the Dalai Lama in his cell.
They beat me so badly that my cellmates had to force food in my mouth because I couldn't chew. But I don't regret it because I did it for my country.
And he wants to do it again. In the last class of the day, he's learning to resist arrest. Ladon makes no apologies for stage managing the monk's message.
Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, the movements that they led were very carefully planned and executed. Rosa Parks didn't just sit down on a bus one day and say, I'm not going to move, sort of on a whim. She was trained.
These monks hope that by protesting outside Tibet, they'll spark an uprising inside their homeland.
Do you not worry that creating this mass movement, even if it's non-violent, could have terrible repercussions for the Tibetans inside?
Non-violence has such a power. You can even change other people's mind for a peaceful solution. And Chinese army and the police, however repressive they may be, will slowly learn that they cannot fight these non-violent army.
His theory is about to be tested much sooner than he expected. Inside Tibet itself. When we come back, the Chinese government cracks down.